here, the Scrapbooking Photographer. Welcome to my channel and thanks for stopping by. Today we are taking part in a fun new series that's running for August called Clue. It's run out of Ginger's Corner, so hop on over there and see what everybody else is doing. But the idea is that we play like Cluedo to pick some different criteria to make up our page. So the first step is we need to roll the dice to find out who our suspect is. And it's a 2, and we've got them all listed down here. So number 2 is Colonel Mustard. So we'll write that down. And the second thing we do is find our murder weapon. Another 2. So the murder weapon is the lead pipe. And the crime scene is number 3, and a 5 in the library. Then we go over to this page and we roll again to find out what element we can introduce for Colonel Mustard, and it's a number 3. Colonel Mustard number 3 is yellow paper. For the weapons, number 3 under lead pipe is illness page. Oh, interesting. Illness page. What does it say? Doctor visit, caught a bug, broken arm, chicken pox, COVID, etc. Okay. And the library is going to be number 4. 2, 3, 4. Use newsprint paper. Interesting. Right, so for my first go at Clue, I'm going to be Colonel Mustard with a lead pipe in the library, which equates to using yellow paper on an illness page and including some newsprint paper. So we'll put that to one side and I'll go and get everything ready. See you soon. Right, so I've gone away and got some things, and I have some photos of when my husband got stung by a bee and his finger swelled up terribly. Now, as luck would have it, or not, it was his wedding ring finger, so the wedding ring had to actually be cut off. His whole hand reacted and swelled up, and so the ring was cut off at the doctor's, and he was given all the bits to reduce the swelling and stop the poison going different places, and then we had to get the ring fixed, so it was kind of like being stung twice. Anyway, so that's my illness photos for an illness page. Also had newsprint was one of my criteria, and in this bee package from Close to My Heart there was this newsprint looking paper that's got all different things on it about bees, so I thought that might work, and I've got one whole piece there that I'm going to incorporate as a bit of a mount, and yellow paper. So I've got some yellow cardstock there, and I'm going to start by just having a frame around the outside of the black. So I'll start by cutting 1/2 inch off here from 2 sides and gutting the back of the black, and I'll use the inside of the black to mount the photos, and then we can put it all together. I've now gutted the back piece, and I'll put that yellow piece in the middle. Now this newsprint piece, it's actually got some clear white around the outside, so I'm going to trim that off so that I have the newsprint going right to the edge with another 1/2 inch frame of the yellow. So I'm just going to trim this up and gut the middle out of it. I'll probably leave maybe a 2 inch gut in the middle. Oh, now I've cut that at 2 inches wide, and then I forgot about cutting the extra bit off the side. Right, so if I bring that in here, I'm actually quite pleased that it's cut most of the word honey off, because it's not about the honey of the bees, this page, it's about their sting. So that's my piece of newsprint in there. And the photos I've got, I'm going to mount in black, and I thought I would put them in somehow. I thought about fussy cutting this out, but it would look a little bit creepy, I think. So I might just pop it in there might cut some of that off there and then keep the ring piece. I might be able to trim that down so it's the same size as this. So this is, yeah, so I'm going to trim that down so that they're both the same size. That'll be better. So we'll just have those slightly overlapping. There's too much white around here, but I think fussy cutting it would look a bit creepy. So I'm just going to trim down here and let that slip in behind there and just see what that looks like. So if I make a slip next to his finger, it's probably too wide. We'll go a little bit further down. Yep, and we'll cut a little bit off the bottom there. So we can keep those kind of at the same height there so they look like one photo. And then I can trim it. I'll trim it here to start with, but I might end up fussy cutting it. Right, it kind of does what I want it to do, because then I've got a couple of little extra bits I want to do with some of these papers to pretty things up a little bit. But to start with, now I've got the sizes of those right, I'll mount these in the black, and that will help to define them against that newsprint a little better. Okay, I've made that wide enough with a little bit of a black mount around the outside, and I cut a little bit off the bottom. Don't worry about this because we're going to cover that up with something pretty. And then I've also mounted that one, which will go up here. Okay, so I'm going to stick that down and then we'll do our pretty bit. Alright, so I've got all of those stuck on, and I quite like the way that looks with the black mount coming in through here and a little bit of a yellow background in there as well. Now there's a nice piece of paper included in this pack which has bees on one side and the other side is pretty generic. So what we're going to do is make some little strips and see how they look as a bit of a chevron. And I saw this done originally on Pinterest on a blog, Simple Stamping, I think was her name, what she goes by. And we start off with 2.5 times 1. So we can just make a few little strips. I'm not quite sure how many we'll need or even how it will look. I haven't tried this in advance, so I'm hoping it's going to look alright. On the blog that I saw it on, it was used on cards, and I'm going to make a couple of cards with it as well, which I think we'll do at our workshop this week on Wednesday. Well, by the time this goes to air, we will have already done it, so keep your eye out on the Instagram and Facebook pages for how it went with the ladies at the card workshop. So this should be the right, yep, that's good as well. Okay, so we've got all these little strips. They all measure 2.5 long and 1 inch wide, and we're going to make a sort of a chevron out of them. On the back is a hexagon shape, but I'm hoping that that won't be too upset by the way we fold this. So we'll start with one just by folding the corner over to meet at the top line, and the opposite way. At the other end. And then the next one we want to come away at an angle. So we're going to fold it the opposite way. It's up like that, so that that's going to fit there. And we'll make this one the other way. Okay, so those fit like that. And then the next one, we want to come off, coming back down the other way. So we want this one to fold in that way. So it's just a matter of doing one after the other, I find. So I've decided to do that again and just work my way through it slowly and logically, and that I want that to go that way. So I'm going to fold it that way from that corner, and then you can see how it butts up to that diagonal with a bit of a V, and then the other end is going to be the opposite way to make way for the next one. So a little bit fiddly, but worth the effort, I think, because we're going to put a couple of these in on our scrapbook page, and as I say, I'll also use them in some cards. That. So before I fold any more, let's bring this page in. We'll bring in 2 at a time so we get a bit of a look at how it's going to work. And then we want another one coming up this way, so we lay it over the top and fold it that way so that we get the black butting up against each other. Like so, and then we'll do the same the opposite way with the other end. It does take a little bit of thinking, I'm finding, to get it kind of lined up right. So again, we want it to lie that way, so we'll fold it that way so that we have the folded pieces butting up against each other, and then the opposite way at the other end will give us that chevron look. And if it's not going to work out evenly, it's better to not go the whole way and leave it odd on purpose. So I think that might go there, and then I'll make another one up the top. I think things are good in 3, so we might do one more little one just out of here. So I'll stick all these down, and then we'll come back with the title and a little bit of embellishing. Okay, so I've made a title on my Cricut, which just says Stung. So it's a one-word title, and I'm just going to pop that in there. I've used the colour that is the back of this bee paper, so that it blends in there. So we've just got the one piece of the brighter yellow in the background, and then that kind of all blends in there, and it also blends in with this bee, which I thought would kind of look cool there. And I'll do some journaling in here, so this little word box here that says tell your story, thought might work in there. And there's also a little finger, which seemed quite appropriate, this little pointy finger thing, because it was certainly his finger that was swollen. And then just to finish it off, we've got another little bee here in a circle, which we'll pop perhaps down here. And that kind of ties in that lighter yellow colour. So I'll do my journaling there, and we might just come back with a couple of little black Nuvo drops and we'll be done. So for our last embellishments, I've got some black liquid pearls, and I've also got, from Stampin' Up, these little tiny bee trinkets. I'll put these on first because all I need is a little bit of glue and a couple of little spots, whereas the Nuvo drops will take time to dry properly. These are so small, but I do like the way that we can combine new things with the old things from close to my heart. Otherwise things sit in your cupboard and don't get used forever. So these I thought went quite well together. I'll just put a few little bees on here. So I hope you get a chance to have a look at what other people have pulled for their first game of Clue. It's a fun thing, and they won't all be the same, so that's the interesting thing. So remembering that my one today was an illness page done with yellow paper and newsprint. And so that's where we got to with this page. And the next one is in a few days' time, so keep your eyes out. Whoops, upside down. Keep your eyes out for that. Right, I think that's enough bees. And then we'll put a couple of these little liquid pearls just in some spots to break up the yellow. And I think we're done. So we've got our yellow page for Colonel Mustard, our newsprint which came from the crime scene being in the library, and our illness page came from the lead pipe murder weapon. So that's my first contribution to the game of Clue. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a completely original design. It came because of the shape of the photos. So if you'd like to take a screenshot and copy it, you're more than welcome. Thank you so much for following along, and happy crafting.